And welcome back to Creative Thinkers. My name is Miguel Valenzuela, and I want to thank you guys for joining us today. We have Ariel Adriana, who is a former Dallas Cowboys dancer, and I want to thank her for coming because I'm sure she's coming a long way to give us a little bit about herself. Ariel, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. Thank you so much.
So I'm super excited to talk to you because you have a lot of really interesting information. You're obviously very young, but you've actually accomplished a lot of things. So one of the things that we always start off with is by talking a little bit about how you grew up, the types of influences you had, so on and so forth. I know that one of the most important influences for you is your mom. So how did your mom, I guess, I don't want to say mold, but help you become who you have become?
She has truly always been a huge inspiration in my life. She's always told me, whatever you do, just be the best at it and go all the way through. Besides my mom, I also have my dad, who has played a huge inspiration in my life. And he's one of my biggest role models as far as fitness, because he's the one that inspired me to start my fitness journey, because he was a personal trainer back in the day and was doing CrossFit competitions. He would take me with him, and it was just so amazing to see him compete and, you know, lift weights. And as far as my mom, she's just always been my rock, and I have always been fortunate enough to grow up with two amazing parents who love me unconditionally, and I never take that for granted. I wouldn't be here without them, and they are truly amazing
people.
Just amazing people. Yeah.
And it's interesting because when we're children, we are influenced by a lot of people, right? Specifically our parents. But all of these little things stick with us. Like you mentioned, that the fact that your dad went out and did CrossFit is a huge part of what you're doing today, because in essence, what you're doing is you're dancing. And through that dance, you are actually creating things, right? And that's one of the things that we talked about, was the fact that you are now trying to get into this kind of rhythm of creating things. So can you talk a little bit about how creativity has become a huge part of your life and how it helps you in any way?
Creativity has allowed me to branch into dancing, into creating content for my Instagram, now for my YouTube channel that I'm starting to grow, and mainly with dance. Like I mentioned earlier before we started this, the way I tap into my creativity with dance is I will put on my headphones and I will either shuffle a playlist that I have, depending on the mood that I'm feeling, and I will just listen to the music, and I will let my, you know, movement take me with the music, and I will just, you know, listen to the music. And that's how I kind of tap into my creativity, is by listening to music and allowing myself to move through movement.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I teach art class, right? One of the classes that I teach is art appreciation, and I really like teaching that class because it allows me to teach individuals who don't know about art, right? To understand, or better understand, the reason why art is important in their lives, in everybody's lives, as a matter of fact. So I see that through dance, it has to be your art form, right?
Right.
This art form that you have, is it different when you are structured in one way, like if you're a ballerina, for example, as opposed to when you're a hip-hop dancer? How does that differ, and how do you think both of them are creative?
Both of them are creative. I mean, I'm not a ballet dancer,
But you've seen it, right?
I have
you know
seen
what it's about, huh?
Yes. I think it's just important to just tap into your creative juices, and whatever that may be. Like for me, it's listening to music. For somebody else, like for you, since you love art, it might be painting on a canvas.
Right.
So it just depends on the person, really.
And the individual is the one that does the creating, I guess, to a certain degree.
Right, right.
So talking about that, let's go back a few steps and kind of take us through the journey of what you had to go through to get to where you were at working with the Dallas Cowboys. So did you start dancing back in the day?
I actually started with cheer and gymnastics when I was very young. I didn't start dancing until I was a freshman in high school. And the person who inspired me to transition into dancing was my mom, because she was a dancer back in her day. And yeah, she was the one that inspired me to try out for the dance team. Before that, I was in cheer throughout middle school and elementary. Oh, this reminds me that I was actually in football. I was part of a cheerleading squad that was for the Dallas Cowboys. So I'll have a picture, I'll send it to you, but there's like a picture of me in the DCC uniform, and I'm just like, I was like 6 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
So it was almost like it was meant to be, you were meant to be part of that at some point in your life, right?
It's crazy to see and look at that picture and like put my picture next to a picture that when I made the team in uniform, and just seeing the comparison, it blows my mind.
And
It's
tell us how you
crazy.
ended up in Dallas, because it's not easy for one to say, I'm going to think outside the box or go out of my comfort zone and do something. What inspired you to do that?
Well, for me, I knew that after I graduated high school, I wanted to move somewhere. I always had plans of moving outside of El Paso, because I felt like El Paso was gonna hold me back from what I wanted to do. And I was looking at my options, and AMDA was a school in LA that I decided to do my research on. And I auditioned to be a part of that school. Like, you have to audition to get into that school.
Right.
It's a American Musical Dance Arts college. And so I did the audition. That school specifically is for technical dancers, ballet dancers, actors, singers. And me coming in and auditioning, I knew that I didn't have everything that they wanted, but I was just a hip hop dancer auditioning. I didn't really know what the outcome was going to be, but I did it anyways to get myself out of my comfort zone and just to see where this could take me. Long story short, I didn't make that audition, and after that I was already in the process of auditioning for the Dallas Cowboys Rhythm Blue. And I was like, okay, I got the rejection letter from AMDA.
Right.
I'm in this process of auditioning for Cowboys. I have to make this team. Like, there's no way I can't make this team. Like, I have to make this team. If I didn't make the team, I would go back to El Paso. It's still, I didn't know what I was gonna do. I also had a scholarship to go to New Mexico State, and I didn't know I had a really good scholarship to go until the day I graduated. And my mom was like, Ariel, like, you have a scholarship. This is for sure. Are you sure you want to do this team? Like, if you don't make it, this scholarship is gonna go away. All of these emotions and, thoughts were going through her head, and I was like, Mom, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. And sure enough, I made it on my first year of auditioning, and it was such a blessing. It's truly a crazy experience, and I'm so glad that I had the courage to, leave my hometown, knowing how young I am. I could have easily been intimidated and, scared, but I was just ready.
So talk to me about the fact that you were not allowing the intimidation to take over, because that's a very, very big thing. A lot of people are blocked by certain things, right? And it seems to me like you didn't allow that to happen. What forced you or helped you to say, I'm not going to allow this? I just need to be here and I need to do that, or be in another city and need to do that.
I just knew I had it in me. I can't really explain like the feeling that I had. I just knew that I just saw myself. I envisioned myself on the team. Like, I envisioned myself making the team. I envisioned myself going to rehearsal, establishing a relationship with my director at the time, Jenny, and all of my teammates, and I just kind of like immersed myself into that feeling of as if I was already a part of that team, if that makes any sense.
It does, and it's interesting because one of the things that we talk about a lot in this show is thinking outside the box, like not allowing the box to hold you in.
Right.
And I see a lot of parallels between what I'm talking about as far as being outside of the box and what you're talking about. So you're saying that basically the thought process in your head was telling you that you were going to be doing this thing, so there was no other way for you to view it.
Exactly. I was like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm gonna be on this team.
Wow.
And I mean, looking back and reflecting, let's say I didn't make that team that first year, I would have come back. I would have came back home here to El Paso. I would have looked at my resources and, you know, how can I get better? And I would have came back the next year and I would have auditioned again. If I didn't make it, I would have came back. And there's so many testimonies that have been on the team. They didn't make it their first, second, third year, and they made it finally, and now they're a captain. So it's just those things to look at too, and to consider, like, it's okay if you don't make it. And this goes like for anything, general speaking. If you don't make it your first time, like, keep trying, like, just keep trying.
Yeah, that's what you always have to do.
Yeah.
So you were actually on the Rhythm and Blue?
Yes, Rhythm and Blue. Dallas Cowboys, Rhythm and Blue.
So the Rhythm and Blue team is dancers as
Yes.
opposed to cheerleaders.
Yes.
You start off as a cheerleader and end up as a dancer.
Yes.
How did you feel about that?
It was a interesting transition. As a cheerleader, you're very stiff with your emotions, and making that transition into dance, you kind of have to just let go and just let go. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, loosen up.
Yeah, just loosen up.
Allow the creative juices to flow, I guess, right?
Less tension, less resistance. But yeah, just like letting go. Obviously, it came with effort and commitment in transitioning into a dancer. But yeah, just taking class and immersing myself into what I can do to help me get better.
And how, by getting better, I assume that you're talking about things like studying and looking at dance moves and things like that, right? So how important is education for you? Because we're actually at a facility where we, educate students.
Right.
Is education important?
It is important. I have always told myself, because let me slow down here.
Yeah, go ahead.
In making the team, my dad told me, if you're going to be on this team, you have to be in school. And I was like, okay, I'll go to school. I didn't know what I was going for. My major was biology. I come from a family of nurses, and my mom, she was a dental assistant back in her day, now has transitioned into a speech pathologist. But I just felt pressured from my dad telling me I have to be in school in order to be on this team. And I was like, you know what, okay, because I made the move to Dallas with my dad, and he was fortunate enough to leave his job here to move out there with me, to help me support my dream, right? I know not everybody's fortunate enough to have that. What was I saying?
Education.
Education. Education.
And it doesn't have to be school environment. It could be the education that you got while being on the team.
I was thinking school.
No, and
I was
it can
thinking
be
school.
But, either way.
Because there is like a story that comes to that.
Please tell us.
So I dropped out.
Okay.
I dropped out. Long story short, I dropped out of college because I just felt like I was destined for something much greater than going to school and getting a degree. Now, I'm not knocking down anybody who is in school and knows what they want to do. I absolutely commend people who are in school and they finish and they're successful at it.
100%.
For me, I just couldn't see myself getting a degree. I see other people so successful outside of going to college and getting a degree. I just felt like I was following like a rat race.
So that's not your thing.
It's not my thing. It's not my thing. And school is always going to be there. And if I decide one day later on in the future that I want to go back to school, then I will make that decision later. But as far as right now, I just feel like I have so many incredible, unique opportunities presented to myself that I can't pass by because I have to be in school, you know?
Right.
And these opportunities are not just like in Dallas, they're now in Miami, they're now in LA, and I'm just being pulled everywhere. And so education is just not in my, you know, path right now.
Right. But you're talking about all these opportunities, right? So what kind of opportunities? Because you're doing a lot. I've spoken to your mom, and your mom's like, you know, she's doing this, that, and the other. What are you doing? Because I mean, having already reached a large goal, like being on the Cowboys dance squad, is pretty big. Where do you go from there?
I know, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know,
I
you
know,
gotta
right?
kind of keep the ball rolling,
like
right?
The $1 million question, like what's next? So currently I'm working with a couple of agencies in Dallas and in Miami, and that consists of me working like marketing for their brand, modeling, photo shoots, just different things. So I work with those agencies. I'm a fitness content creator. I do brand deals on Instagram. They're not always like consistent, but I'm working on building up that consistency. You know, and just working every day, getting in the gym, you know, working on myself. I plan to have my own brand one day. And that's going to consist of athleisure wear and my own bikini line. Because I could live in a bikini. Like I need to be by the ocean. So I feel like having my own having my own bikini line is just definitely up my just in my element, you know. I have a lot of goals. I feel like they're not coming out right now, but I have a lot of things planned, and although Dallas Cowboys was a huge stepping stone, I'm just gonna keep on using that to my advantage in the best way possible to help keep myself growing. And
of course.
You know, I have plans of teaching dance, but that's gonna come once I start being consistent with my dance taking class. Yeah, that's.
Well, it seems like you're doing a lot of things, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the other things that we spoke about, sorry for interrupting you, one of the other things that we spoke about was how similar my daughter and you are. And what I'm talking about is like, I feel like my daughter does a lot of things. She dances, she paints, she draws, she sings, she acts. So you are in kind of a similar boat, right? Can you explain to us where all of this, I guess, talent comes from? Because that's a lot, you know? And how did your growing up lead you to that?
I feel like this goes back to me enjoying trying new things. Because I don't like to, I'm not a routine-based person. I'm very spontaneous, and that leads me to trying new things. And if I like this one thing and I like another thing, why not do both, you know? What was the other question that you asked me?
Because I think that that's one of the things that a lot of people think. If I'm studying biology, I have to be a biologist, right? But it isn't necessarily like that. If you're studying biology, you could go to the ocean and become a surfer and make surfboards, right?
Literally.
You really don't know. And one of the most important things, at least in this show, is for people to understand that there are opportunities and doors to open, windows to go through, so on and so forth. Because sometimes when people run into these things, they think that it may be an obstacle. It's like, I ran into a door and it's closed, so I need to turn around and go back. But it really isn't like that. If you like to play guitar, you play guitar, right?
Right.
You learn guitar.
Right.
If you want to play the piano, you do that. If you want to be a cheerleader, you do that. If you want to be a dancer, you do that. But one of the things that I want to know is, you know, where did that stem from? Is it the freedom of thinking from growing up as a child, or how did that come about?
That's a very good question.
I try to ask good questions.
I feel like I'm just a very versatile person. I feel like there's not really a correct way to answer that question, but me just truly being inspired by other individuals who are truly like in their craft, and that inspires me to, you know, hey, if she's doing it, why can't I? Let me try it and see if I like it. Like for example, in high school, I was in track and dance, and well, in middle school, I was also in track, choir, and cheer. Like I couldn't just choose one. Like I wanted to be in everything. I wanted to even play basketball, but I was like, no, let me not. Like, let me.
You had to limit yourself?
Yeah, I had to limit
Really?
myself because I really wanted to try everything. And
But was
I
it
think
a search that you had? Like, I want to try everything to see where I really am supposed to be.
I guess so. I guess so. And I think that my mom truly helped me in deciding what I wanted to do. By her asking me, or by her, she didn't ask me, she told me. She was like, you should try out for the dance team. And that's probably because she did dance back in her day. And so I was like, okay, like it's probably in my DNA. Like I'm probably pretty good at dance, so let me just try. And so yeah, I ended up just running with it, and here I am.
Cool. Yeah, you've done a lot of things and accomplished a lot of things. You know, one of the next guests that I'm going to have here pretty quickly in the future is a student that I had. And the reason why I chose to have him as an individual that I wanted to interview is because in my class, he just seemed to have the answers to everything, you know? And it didn't matter whether I was talking about life, or I was talking about art, or I was talking about space or the moon or whatever. You know, whatever conversation we were having on that day during lecture, he seemed to always have the answer. And I would see that other students were just like, I'm lost, like what's going on? Yeah. But he would have the answer. And I asked him, you know, what do you think has been the catalyst for you to be so open-minded and just kind of have the answer? He says, oh, well, if I can be honest, I feel like what it is having art being incorporated into my life for as long as I can remember. And art doesn't have to be seeing a painting like the Mona Lisa or a Picasso piece in some museum in New York City. What it is having the ability to allow yourself to incorporate these kind of beautiful colors and shapes and forms and designs and architecture into your life, and really say, wow, these things inspire me. We really don't understand the power of art and creativity in our lives. And until we allow that to happen, then we can do that. And I see a lot of similarities between you and this student of mine. It seems to me like the mindset that you have has allowed you to think outside the box. And because of that, it has allowed you to accomplish a lot of things. What do you think about that? Do you think that that's true?
Yes, it's important to be open-minded because you never know what you're gonna love doing. So yes, it's very important to, one, make sure your mindset is where you need it to be, not where you want it to be, where you need it to be. And just having an open heart and an open mind.
Cool. Like the way that you put it.
Yeah.
One of the last questions, because we're not out of time in this show very quickly, is I try to ask all of my guests to give a little bit of maybe insight as to something that you have that may be helpful to some people. For example, some people say, you know what, my advice is to just keep on trucking, right? Keep on doing what you're doing. Other people may say my advice is for you to see things from a different perspective, you know? What kind of advice can you give us? What kind of advice can you give our audience that's watching us here on YouTube and on TV?
Yeah, of course. So I was actually just talking about this on my YouTube channel that I just posted yesterday.
Okay.
So you guys can tune in and watch that too.
And you'll give us that information.
And I will. Yes, it's actually we'll talk about that after I answer this. My advice that I would give to anybody really is to just show up. I showed up. just show up. Like, show up, whether that's going to the gym. If you don't feel like going to the gym, just tell yourself, show up for 5 minutes, show up for 10 minutes and see what happens. Whenever I tell myself that, I always end up staying longer, and I never regret the workout that I did that day. I never finish my workout and say, ugh, that was the worst thing.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like, and I feel like just showing up is just enough. And just striving to be 1% better every day is what I tell myself on days where I absolutely don't want to do anything.
Yeah, because I think it's easy for a lot of people, including myself, to say, I can go to the gym today, and I'm like, I'll just go tomorrow, right?
Right.
And then a lot of times tomorrow never comes, right?
Right.
Or it may be 3 months out.
Yeah.
But if you just show up, then you can at least start and do something, right? Maybe just hang out at the gym, meet somebody that, you know, may encourage you to keep going. I think that that's really good advice, actually.
Yeah, thank you. And
Yeah,
it's
I
always,
think that that's
I always tell myself, like, one day or day one. And that's something that I've heard throughout my self-improvement journey, and just, you know, listening to podcasts every day. And I'm just heavy on my self-improvement right now, and I feel like it's important too to pour into yourself every day, because if you're not growing, I feel like you're dying and you're just staying stagnant.
Yeah, that's kind of deep.
Yeah, it is pretty deep.
Yeah, but it's true though. If you're not moving this way, you're actually moving this way, right?
Right.
It's
And even
interesting.
if it's just like a teeny tiny thing, it doesn't have to be anything like extravagant. Just literally just showing up. Like today, to be transparent with you, this is my first podcast that I'm been on, and I'm not the most comfortable with being on camera and talking to the camera.
Right.
And I truly had to just set my emotions aside, because I don't like talking.
You don't like talking?
I
Well,
do.
I think you've done a really, really good job.
I feel like I'm always very hard on myself, and this comes from just me being hard on myself. And today, I mean, I got in this morning. My flight was at 8 a.m. Got in at 9, landed at 9:30, got home, got ready, and I just wanted to take a nap. I just wanted to take a nap.
But you just had to show up.
I just had to show up. I just had to show up.
Well, I'm glad you showed up, and I thank you for being here, because as I say, the 28 minutes that we actually record goes through very, very quickly. You did a great job. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. We'll
Absolutely.
see you next time.
Right on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My pleasure. And I want to thank you guys for joining us once again. My name is Miguel Valenzuela, and if you guys want to contact me, or if you guys have somebody that I may want to talk to, you guys can email me at mvalen31@epcc.edu, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much.